Welcome to the show, DanDans. My name is Ian. You are listening to episode 3 of the 616Entertainment Wrestling Podcast, and this episode's guest is Maxwell Baumbach, aka Mark Maxwell, when he was still involved in the business. And just a quick rundown on who Maxwell is, he's a guy who started just like all of us, a fan, got involved in the business, didn't necessarily want to be a wrestler. I think that's the common dream that everybody wants to get in the ring. Maxwell wanted to be a booker. He wanted to be in charge. He wanted to take these ideas that he's had going around his head and play them out in front of a live audience and see what it was going to be like. Hopefully it was good. On this episode, we talk about what it was like starting as a fan, getting involved in the business, and seeing what comes of your ideas and how a live audience will react to them. I asked him if he's had any pushback from any of the boys about stuff he's pitched or if anything else went awry along the way. But Maxwell's a great guy who is part of the RBR Wrestling Podcast, which you can find on Twitter. You can find it all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Maxwell is a guy who stays busy, and even though he is extremely busy in his real life and is a married man and a homeowner with a demanding job, he finds time to put love into his passions and his hobbies, and I can identify with that. I love Maxwell. He's a great guy. So here we go. Let's get the fuck into this. This is episode 3 of the 616 Entertainment Wrestling Podcast. Instead of talking about, the current product, what's wrong with today's wrestling, fuck that. Yeah. I want to talk about your journey with wrestling, your entire life with it.
Okay.
And I think we got to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
What was your first exposure to wrestling that you remember?
I don't even remember because of how early it started.
Yeah.
I'm a 4th generation wrestling fan.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So my grandpa's mom used to take him to the carnival and be like, you go do rides and shit. I'm watching the wrestling matches.
That is awesome.
So she used to go back and legitimately in the carnival days.
Back then, okay, so your great-grandmother...
Yeah.
Who were we talking about back then? Any names at all?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who she liked. And then I know my grandpa came up... My family's always lived in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. So my grandpa was big into, all the AWA guys. So, Vern Gagne... Crusher and Dick the Bruiser are his big ones.
Yeah.
And then my dad kind of came up on those same guys because AWA pushed the same people forever and never created new stars.
That's why every one of their heavyweight champions was 73 years old.
Yeah. And then he got into WWF around Jimmy Snuka, Piper, that kind of era.
Okay.
And then we grew up on WWF because this is a great trait that I kind of have too.
Yeah.
And it's funny it's been passed down to me because I view it more with sports, but my dad is super ageist when it comes to wrestling.
What do you mean?
So when WCW is hot with the NWO, my dad was like, this sucks, they're all old.
Oh,
these guys are old. I don't want to watch WCW because of all the old guys.
That's cool for a dad to think.
Yeah,
because you would think a dad would be like, "Where's Hulk Hogan? Where's Kevin Nash?"
No, my dad was like, "Where's the young guys? This sucks. These guys are immobile." Cool. So we weren't allowed to watch WCW, which is the opposite of how everyone else grew up. Where it's WWF was risque, so you watched WCW. My dad was like, "No, you're not allowed to watch the old shitty guys."
That's so funny. He's like, "I want you to see the good shit."
Yeah. So Shawn Michaels was my favorite growing up. Even I feel even I remember him being a heel but still liking him. Even when I was 3.
Old school.
Yeah. So I was a huge Shawn Michaels fan.
What was it about Shawn Michaels that you liked?
Our really good family friend and babysitter, her name was Lisa Michaels. Yeah. So she told me that was her brother. So that's why I like Shawn Michaels.
I'm gonna root for him. I know his sister.
Yeah. So that was a big part of it. Mm-hmm. But also I don't know. I liked. I think it was kind of the underdog thing. He was a smaller guy. Yeah. I don't know. I always kind of gravitated toward and I still kind of do to the pretty boy white meat type of wrestler, which is kind of a weird thing because I feel most dudes are normally I like edgy, Bullet Club, that type of stuff. Where I'm I've always had a soft spot for him, even before Scotty Too Hottie was Scotty Too Hottie, and he was just Scott Taylor.
Scott
And he was
Taylor.
like generic looking white guy with blonde hair. I liked him then.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, for whatever reason, I've always been drawn to very white meat babyface type characters.
I like that. That is interesting because you don't hear a lot of people who are like, bro, I love Scott Taylor.
Yeah.
Fuck that Scotty Too
Especially when
Hottie
they're
shit.
6. Like, and you're like, yeah, this guy loses on TV all the time. And I was like, I love Scott Taylor. That's my guy right there. And then I remember my first, like, emotional attachment to wrestling. Like, when I first remember being, like, I guess, worked by wrestling was when they did the angle with the Nation of Domination and Ahmed Johnson, like they feuded forever.
Yeah.
And then at some point, Ahmed turned heel and joined the Nation of Domination, and I was a wreck. Because I liked Ahmed Johnson a lot. I don't know why, but I did. And, like, I vividly remember at school the next day, the teacher, like, pulling me outside of the classroom and asking me if I was okay. Because I was, like, despondent and, like, rattled the entire day. Traumatized by Ahmed Johnson's heel turn.
That is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Dude, Pearl River Plunge forever. Mm-hmm. What's Ahmed Johnson doing nowadays?
I don't know. He was, like, doing stuff with Booker T's school for, like, a while. But that was years ago. I don't know if he still does.
His WWF Warzone promos... The video game.
Oh my gosh,
Some of the best ever.
So funny.
What kind of shit were you into as a kid that you look back on now and you're kind of like, what was that?
Ahmed Johnson. No, I mean, there's like, I'm trying to think of stuff that I think blatantly sucks now.
As we're watching a Sid Vicious match.
Yeah. Yeah,
This is really bad.
I don't think I ever liked anybody that was like that horrible. But I also think part of it was my dad like kind of like shaping my wrestling interest to a point.
Yeah.
So like not that he was like, hey, you like this guy, but you know what I mean. But like I don't know.
Oh, my dad likes him. I gotta be like my dad.
Yeah. Like, I think that was a big part of it, and he was obviously much more discerning viewer than I was. But also it was weird because was your, like, growing up, was anyone in your family, like, a big newspaper person? Like, they'd read the newspaper all the time?
My dad would here and there, and when we cleared out his house, we found, like, old newspapers he had kept throughout the years.
Okay.
He had a newspaper from the day that John Lennon died.
Oh, wow.
He had a newspaper from the day after 9/11. Like, he would just,
like,
moments in history,
yeah.
he would keep the newspaper, which was, like... Dude, like, I remember when Macho Man died and when Eddie died, he cut out the little, like, photos in the paper and he, like, gave it to me. I was like, this is kind of a cool memento.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, this will only be in the paper one time.
Yeah, because the reason I bring that up is because do you have any recollection or any experience with Blackjack Brown? I think it was in the Sun-Times.
Oh, I don't... You know what? I think I remember the name.
Okay.
But that's about it.
So Blackjack Brown was this guy who would just, like... Kind of like the news aggregator websites now would just post, like, excerpts from The Observer that week.
Okay.
So he'd
Is that legal? Wasn't
like,
The Observer paid subscription?
Really? He would, like, put his own twist on it. Okay. And then, like... But it would basically be, like, The Observer reworded. Because I remember once I became, like, an internet fan, I'd read Blackjack Brown and be like, oh, I already knew all of this. So from the time I was, like, 5 or 6, my dad would read, like, the full newspaper every day. And on Sundays, Blackjack Brown would have a column in like one of the Chicago newspapers, and he would just give like wrestling scoops. And from the time I was 5, my dad would be like, "Oh, like you can read now. Like read this."
That's awesome.
And I'd just read, and it would be like, "Shawn Michaels has a bad attitude backstage and is in fights with Bret Hart over Sonny having an affair," and like whatever. Like, but I always knew that it wasn't real, and I think that kind of shaped my interest. Too, because like from the time I was like 6, I was basically like reading dirt sheets. So it was like, oh, I know this guy's good, and like I didn't really know why. Yeah, it would be because the newspaper said he's good. He's a good wrestler. You know what I mean? But so I always kind of had like a critical eye toward wrestling as opposed to just being like, I hope this guy wins.
Which is really cool because similar to you, I never thought what I was watching was a real fight. Okay, like my first introduction to wrestling is, for whatever reason, any of my friends would bring it up before I was into it. I'd be like, you know, that's fake, right? Like, that would come out of my mouth. I had never seen it. So then
you just knew it wasn't real.
Yeah, like the life-changing thing for me, I told it on episode 1, was I was at my buddy Chris McDermott's house.
Okay.
And there was, I must have been like Nitro or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was Raven cutting a promo.
Oh, hell
like,
yeah.
backstage.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fake, right? And he goes, yeah, so? And I was like, wow.
Oh, shit, yeah.
like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, everything that's fucking cool is not real.
Yeah, that's what I would always say. I remember at school, like, people would be like, oh, you like fake wrestling. I'd be like, every show on TV is fake.
Yeah, what do you watch, dickhead? Power Rangers?
Yeah, like, it just, I don't know, that never fazed me or, like, was a detractor for me.
Who were guys growing up that were really popular, but as you were a kid, you were like, I don't think so. I don't like them.
I was never into, like, a lot of the main event guys.
Okay.
Which is, like, kind of weird. Like, I don't remember ever being like, I love Stone Cold, I love The Rock, I love Triple H. I always liked Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
I loved D'Lo Brown.
Dude, I've seen you tweet about D'Lo Brown so many times.
So, yeah, when I was in, like, 2nd grade through 6th grade, like, if we're being real,
I
played basketball growing up, and anytime I would score, I would do the D'Lo Brown head shake after I scored. And, like...
You're looking at the wheel doing that.
Yeah. I don't, like... Which, like, I was, like, because I'm, like, I was, like, a good athlete, but I'm tall. So, like, it would happen, like, 2 or 3 times a game. Like, I'd get the ball and score and just do the D'Lo Brown head shake. And I remember, like, I think it was probably around the time I was, like, going into 7th grade. I remember my coach, like, remarking that, like, I wasn't that good. He's like, but you're, like, a crowd pleaser. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, shit, I'm, like, doing taunts. Like, that's bad. Like, I can't be doing that anymore. And that's, like, when I stopped, was when I was like, oh, shit, like, that's kind of, like, I shouldn't be doing that. Like, that's rude.
I remember in 1st grade one time we were playing kickball, and we were, like, I guess on deck. Like, you just waited in line until it was your turn up.
Yeah.
And I remember anytime one of the kids, like, in the outfield on defense would look at me, I would do the crotch chop.
Yeah.
Like, anytime they made eye contact with me, because I wanted someone to see me doing it.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, someone made fun of me for doing it. I was like, I guess it's kind of dumb. Maybe I shouldn't do that. That's kind of lame. Like, because I'm not even good.
Yeah.
I suck. You said you grew up as a WWF kid because your dad would not let you watch WCW.
But also I would, like, because when their hours were staggered, I would pretend I was going to watch another TV show on a TV upstairs and watch WCW. And this is, like, my favorite embarrassing story ever. Okay. So when I was, like, I had to have been, like, 6 or 7. For some reason, Alex Wright was, like, again, like, and, like, this is him doing, like, Das Wunderkind.
Das Wunderkind.
Like, so, again, like, me with, like, white meat baby faces who aren't good. Yeah. I loved Alex Wright.
Oh, my God, he sucked.
So I'm watching WCW upstairs, which I'm not allowed to be watching WCW because it's bad wrestling. And we had, like, guests coming over or something. I just remember that there were people coming over.
Yeah.
And I had to go to the bathroom really bad, but there was an Alex Wright match happening, so I was like, I'm gonna hold it. And, like, I pissed in my pants. And I remember, like, as this happened, the doorbell rang, and I was like, ah, ah. And it was, like, for a 6-year-old me, like, that was, like, the equivalent of getting caught watching porn.
That
it was, like,
so
I have urine
funny.
in my pants and WCW's on the TV.
Sid Vicious just tapped out as soon as the crossface went on. I love that story, though, of, like, I had to pee, but there was an Alex Wright match.
Alex Wright was on, man.
Dude, you had to pee so bad if you just straight up pissed your pants. But you can't leave the room with Das
Alex
Wunderkind.
Wright. Like, what?
Now, if it was a Berlin match, I would understand.
Yeah, and kids these days are so spoiled now with DVR that they don't have to piss themselves to catch the Alex Wright match.
That should be, like, the subtitle to your book. My Journey Through Wrestling and Why Kids Are So Spoiled Now. Okay, what the fuck is with really long subtitles to books? When did that shit start?
I feel like it's almost a more recent thing.
It is.
I feel like people really like long subtitles now. That's just, like, a thing that
it's gotta go.
Is artsy. I don't really care for it. Yeah.
So you would watch WCW as a rebel when you could. Do you ever look back and think, like, I kind of wish I grew up a WCW kid? Or are you happy you grew up the way you did?
No, I'm happy I grew up the way I did. And I ended up, like, by the time I was, like, a teenager and, like, got involved. So, like, I got into the internet, like, wrestling community during the period, like, between tape trading but before torrenting was feasible. so I got involved with like this message board where you could buy pirated DVDs from people.
What was this message board called?
It's still around today.
Yeah.
It's Crazy Max is the name of
Okay.
it. And so I like ended up buying like because before I was like into the indies, I bought like a ton of like pirated WCW content. Mm-hmm. So
Like
I ended up
best of
watching
tapes?
like yeah. A lot of it was compilations at first. There was a lot of like guys I knew because they came to WWE, like guys I got more familiar with because they came to WWE later. It's like Best of Rey Mysterio. So like I ended up seeing a large Best of Benoit. I was a huge Benoit fan. I like joke about it now, but like I was a big Benoit fan. Eddie Guerrero, like I saw a lot of like the good WCW content within like the 3 years following it not being around anymore. So I never really like felt like I missed out.
Okay. Yeah, you saw the good shit then. You didn't watch much of the garbage.
Yeah.
I grew up a WCW kid, and I was like the only WCW kid, and my friends would make fun of me and like, oh, WWF is better. I was like, no way. Looking back on it, like whenever I do turn the network on and I watch like a WCW pay-per-view, there are like maybe 2 storylines happening, and then just a bunch of shit.
It's just weird. Like their booking like didn't make any like there a lot of people like skim over the fact that like there's a lot of just directionless people in WCW.
Doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then they would be like the 4th match on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, no build, just like, here's like Jerry Flynn and like some other guy. It's like, oh, well, that's okay. Like,
Stevie Ray versus Conan for the 700th time.
And like Conan's also U.S. champion. Right now.
Oh, dude, the U.S. title was nothing. But it's one of my favorite belt designs of all time.
The WCW version of it?
Gorgeous belt.
I like it.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you grew up a WWF kid. You watched WCW when you could. Did you get into ECW at all?
No, but my dad watched it.
Okay.
And like didn't tell me until later.
Because it was too much?
Yeah, pretty much. And it was on like I think it was on late, like with our syndication.
I think in the Midwest it came on at like 10 or 11.
Yeah, which like I would have been bed by that point. We also had earlier bedtime, so like I never caught any of that. But I remember like when I got my friend Ross brought over the ECW documentary like
Rise
when
and
it came
Fall?
out, and my dad like told us the entire story before we watched it.
That's
and I was
awesome.
Like, so okay, it's like he was probably watching it the whole time, or at least like knew pretty damn well what happened. But like it was in depth enough that it's like, all right, he was watching that like. At least partially.
That's so cool that your dad was like a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah, it was cool when I got into the business later.
Yeah.
Especially because he could like actually be proud of what I was doing.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
My dad, like, he grew up and he knew a lot of the guys like Jake the Snake and Jimmy Snuka, but I don't think he was ever a huge fan. But when I got into it as a kid, he would watch it with me. Yeah. And he liked some of it, but I don't think my parents... They were not into WWF. They hated DX.
Yeah.
They were not a fan.
Which, like, as a parent, I understand.
Yeah. And I was way more into WCW anyway. I was an NWO Sting, Cruiserweights kid. They were my favorites. Bret Hart, even though he didn't do much in WCW, looking back on it. But I preferred WCW, and I remember the only 2 things I can remember of my dad being like, you can't watch wrestling anymore, which he never stuck to. One was on an episode of Raw. Ken Shamrock was mad about something. I don't even know what it was, but what else is new? And he had a hammer in his hand. And my dad was like, if he hits somebody with a hammer, you guys are never watching this again. And he didn't. I think he just like hit the stairs and made noise. Yeah. And then one night, the NWO kidnapped Ric Flair. And they took him out in the middle of a field and they just beat the fuck out of him. And they left him. My dad's like, I'm going to write a letter to them. They shouldn't show that to kids. And he never did. But so funny. Those are the only 2 things that... And it was both my dad. Yeah. My mom just did like the DX thing.
That's funny.
So you never got into ECW.
Not really. But I got like... The documentary very much influenced how my perception of storytelling and wrestling, though, with like interweaving and other things like that.
So as time goes on, we start to see shit like ROH, TNA. How much of this stuff do you get into? I got big into the indies around the time I became like an internet wrestling kid. Which was, give me a year.
So like around like 2004. Okay. It was like my first exposure to the indies in TNA. I actually watched indies before I watched TNA, which is I feel kind of backwards.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they go TNA and they're like, wait, what's this other stuff?
Yeah. So the first indie match I ever saw was from ROH Night of the Grudges, and it was Paul London and AJ Styles.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a damn hoot. And the reason I watched it is because AJ Styles did a job on like Metal or Jacked in like 2001. And for some reason I remembered his name.
Yeah.
So I knew tangentially who AJ Styles was. And Paul London had recently done a job on like Velocity or something. And someone posted that match online. And I was like, oh, I know both of these guys.
Yeah,
but I've only seen them lose. Like, I wonder if they're actually good.
And you were
and
like,
I just watched it, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, because it was like the cruiserweight stuff that I'd seen, but like cranked up to 11 for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Which, like, growing up, like, especially in that era, like, cruiserweights never got time on TV.
No, they were in and out.
And now, like, the WWE style is so close to the indie style that I honestly like, don't understand how people become fans of indie wrestling now. Unless you, like, really want to, like, get in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
I feel like if you want that, like, I get it, but, like, the products now are so similar in terms of, like, in-ring style that, like, back then it was like, whoa, like, this is different.
A lot of it nowadays might just be, like, I don't want to say ego, because that puts, like, a negative connotation on it, but maybe you want to sound smart.
Yeah.
Like, nah, dude,
like, I don't think you're that
here,
wrong. Like, I don't think you're that off base. Or people just really like wrestling, just want to watch a shitload of wrestling.
Yeah. And in like 2000, I saw TNA really early. I saw some TNA in like 2002. And I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know it existed.
Okay.
I was at my mom's friend's house, and they had like a pirated pay-per-view box.
Oh,
and
okay. I was going to say it had to be
channels.
pirated pay-per-view box, or they had like a weird thing with like Sunshine Network where they aired Explosion.
Flipping channels. And I saw NWA TNA, and I was like, is that Raven? or
Okay.
something like that. It might not have been Raven at the time, but I definitely saw like Jeff Jarrett, and I was like, wait, what is this other wrestling? Like that I didn't even know was around.
Yeah.
And I was interested in it, didn't see it forever, and then 2004 it was like Jeff Hardy signed with TNA, and I was balls deep.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, because my initial thing with TNA was in probably like early 2003. I saw they aired like a commercial for their weekly pay-per-view.
Was it the 1 penny pay-per-view? Maybe?
No. It was just like a general. Because do you remember the 1 penny pay-per-view? Now that you bring it up, but I just remember them like airing commercials, being like, "This is on pay-per-view," blah blah blah, and I remember seeing D'Lo Brown in the commercial and being like, "I kind of want to watch this," but because it was called TNA, and then they said X Division, I misheard it. And I thought they said the high-flying, death-defying superstars of the sex division.
I would watch that.
And they showed, like, a hot chick, because they used to have the hot chicks dancing in the cages.
Yep.
So I was like, oh no, this is, like, bad sex wrestling. So I was like, it's sad that D'Lo Brown is in, like, the sex wrestling company
Oh
now.
no.
And then, like, once I became, like, an internet fan, I was like, oh, this is just, like, a promotion that has a silly name, and it's X Division. But I thought it was, like, some weird pervert wrestling company.
You were a big fan of D'Lo, but you did not want to see him give someone the lowdown.
Oh, God. Holy shit. So I started to watch ROH shows, like, occasionally when I could find them on LimeWire. And then TNA we had like one of those like cable packages, like what I call like the by accident cable package, where like they give you a shitload of channels that they're supposed to like shut off and they forget to. So we had like all these sports channels growing up that
Amazing.
Like, we were not supposed to have. And then at one point they caught it and started charging for it, then we switched cable companies.
Fuck.
But we used to get the Sunshine Network, I think it was called, where they would air Explosion. So I remember watching that and seeing like AJ Styles and Abyss and stuff like that. And then when they started to do the TNA Fox Sports Net deal, it would be on like right when I got home from school.
That's how I would watch it
And we had the staggered, like, because we had all of the like sports channels. Let's say one day it was supposed to be on at like 4:00 our time. But if I got home at 3, I could watch it on like the Pittsburgh Fox Sports Net. It would be on then.
Awesome.
Or if I like got into it late, I could watch like the Utah version of it. You know what I mean? So I could catch like the beginning of it later.
Yeah.
So I became like a religious viewer of that. But ROH is like what I really, really got into. And it's just why like I still have a massive soft spot / hard on for Gabe Sapolsky.
Yeah.
Which is like weird. That's like a guy that I've like talked to now. Like it's still like,
that's gotta feel cool.
Mind blowing to me. Yeah. But yeah, it's I just got super wrapped up into ROH because it was way different, and the internet wrestling community also had like a bigger, and like I say that like that's such like a broad term, but like I guess the circle of the internet that I was involved with that liked wrestling had like a very defined idea of like, this is real wrestling. Like everything else is sports entertainment bullshit. Like,
I remember this era.
Vince Jr.'s blood money. He's trying to raid the indies, like that type of shit. So like that was like the circle I was in. So when I got into ROH, I was like full bore, like fuck mainstream corporate wrestling. I like Ring of Honor.
You can
like,
keep that corporate BS.
Yeah. So like I got real into ROH. And CM Punk was a part of that. I think I tweeted about this the other day, but I would have gotten into the indies earlier. But when I saw like CM Punk's thing was that he was like straight edge CM Punk.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pot shot at Edge because I didn't know what straight edge was. So I thought he was calling Edge gay.
That's hilarious.
So I was like, I don't want to watch this. He's mean to Edge, and I like Edge because I like white meat baby faces with blonde hair. So yeah, so I like didn't get into ROH like full bore because of that, but then I did.
I love that
really
that was enough.
Yeah. He's mean to Edge. I'm not watching this
Some
shit.
of the filthy things I've seen you tweet, but making fun of Edge, I'm not watching this product.
That's where I draw the line.
I'll piss my pants for Alex Wright. You don't understand, sir.
So I got big into ROH. I was huge into like Punk and Cabana, and then being from Chicago helped. My dad took me to my first indie show, which was Punk the Final Chapter. CM Punk's last ROH show was my first indie show that I attended, and then got like real into ROH.
Was that Frontier Fieldhouse?
Yeah.
I went to a bunch of Frontier Fieldhouse shows. I remember,
did too. Which is weird because like a bunch of people we're friends with now. We were all at those shows.
Dude,
like Steve, Nick's,
yeah.
like all those people were at those
so
shows.
many friends. I'm
It's
like, oh,
insane.
you were there? I was like, I wonder if I like saw you.
We had to have like, I feel like some of us like had to have interacted at some point.
Dude, I remember I don't know if it was the first show I ever went to, but one of the first shows I ever went to was Punk and Rave in the cage. And
Yeah.
Punk
That
suplexed
was
him
right
off the
before
top.
Punk the Final Chapter because I wanted to go to that one and I like, could not talk my dad into it.
I remember I was there, and this changed what I thought like wrestling could be. Was I was there the night of that Dragon Gate like triple threat match, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
My dad took me to that show and we still talk about that match.
Yeah, that
to
match
this
was
day.
incredible.
And like Yoshino and like his speed running the ropes, my dad will be like, is there anybody as fast as that guy? Like he's like still just like, is there ever gonna be anybody that fast again? And it's like, probably not. Like that guy was a machine.
You're staying at his house on vacation or whatever. You go to the bathroom at night and you just hear, no one's that fast. He's like sleeping thinking about it.
Yeah, that match was absurd, and I think that match like defined the direction of indie wrestling for the next decade. I think that match is like low key the most influential indie match ever.
I remember hearing like, didn't it get 5 stars? Or was it the first one in a long time?
Yeah, it was like the first match on American soil to get 5 stars since like the Taker HBK cage match or Hell in a Cell.
I love that match. One of my favorites.
So good.
So you go balls deep into Ring of Honor. You get into TNA. When do you like start to get involved in wrestling, or is that a huge jump?
So that was like not that long afterward.
Okay, I had a feeling it was probably around that time.
Yeah, I think I was January 5th, 2008 was the first day I went to wrestling school.
Okay, because you wanted to train to be a wrestler.
Yeah, and
as we all do,
but like half-heartedly.
Yeah,
I wanted to book. So my thought process was, I'm gonna be a wrestler so that I can eventually become a booker.
I need to know what this is like.
Yeah, but it's also like, I remember I emailed with Dave Prazak a bunch.
Okay.
Because I met him at an ROH show. And I wrote a paper about wanting to be a wrestling promoter and booker. And I was like,
how many of those does he probably get? None. He probably gets so many, but I want to be a wrestler.
Yeah, so I talked to him because I had to do like a report about it for school, and you had to like email or talk to someone who did your job, and I was like, shit, I don't like know any promoters. No one's gonna talk to me.
Yeah.
So I just like approached Prazak at an ROH show because I knew he ran Shimmer, and I was like, hey, I'm writing a school paper. Can you like exchange emails with me about this? And he was like, yeah, sure, why not?
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I contacted Prazak, and I basically asked him eventually. I was like, "How do I become a booker?" And he was just like, it doesn't fucking happen. We're like as politely as possible. Like he was very, very professional the entire time. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because we met each other later, and I never brought up that was me because I feel like I was kind of embarrassed about it. But yeah, he was just you don't you have to unless you're a wrestler, it's not gonna happen.
If you're in the business, they don't just get some kid.
Yeah, they're not
hey, you want to be in charge?
Yeah, hey, I read your fantasy booking of the Maxwell Wrestling Federation on WrestleZone forums.
Tell me that was a thing.
Yeah. MWF.
I love it.
Did a great angle where I'd established that part of the rules before a championship match was that the referee had to hold the belt over his head.
What?
And Triple H was wrestling The Miz. And this was when he was Mike Mizanin still. He wasn't even in WWE. He was the guy from the real world, but on the indies. Because this was 2003. And Triple H had to defend his title against young upstart Mike Mizanin. And Triple H jumped in before the bell, blah, blah, blah. And then The Miz rolls him up. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3. Miz is MWF champion. Except because Triple H jumped in before the bell, the referee didn't hold the belt over his head, so it wasn't an official title match.
What is this rule? Why does the ref have to present the belt?
I don't know, but I remember writing it my first show with the intention of I'm going to bring this into play down the road.
Yeah.
So that was always a feature of the MWF. I would specifically write the referee holds the title over his head to sanction this title match,
making it official.
Yeah, I would do that for every show, and then was the payoff.
So funny.
Was that heel scumbag Triple H had jumped him before the match, so even though he lost the title, it didn't count.
That makes The Miz look like $1 million.
Yeah.
When he really needed it, because no one knew who the fuck he was.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I wanted to wrestle, obviously, to a point, but it was mostly just to get into a position to do behind the scenes stuff.
Foot in the door, at least.
Yeah. And I think that's always kind of why I never actually followed through with training.
Yeah.
It was I did it, and my track coach wasn't thrilled about me coming to practice and being all hobbled and shit. Mm-hmm. So then I just did bullshit wrestling jobs. I tore up and sit down. I've worked cameras at shows.
Yeah.
Whatever was needed for 3 years before I got a break to do commentary.
Mm-hmm.
So
what was wrestling training like? Did you take your first bump and be like, ow?
Yeah. Oh, I was ruined the first day of training. I don't think I ever I never got hurt. Mm-hmm. But I told this story on the other 616 podcast. I initially trained with the Lucha people.
Yeah.
Initially, it's I won't rehash that story. Go back and listen to the old episode of 616.
Whatever episode that was.
Yeah. So.
Was that number 73? I have a decent mind.
I think, it had to have been in that episode.
I have no idea how I pulled that factoid out.
But yeah, it was, I don't remember ever being hurt, but I remember maybe being in positions that I shouldn't have been in. Because I remember I told Steve, I was the first 3 moves I ever learned were arm drag, hip toss, fisherman suplex.
Oh my god!
Because usually it's arm drag, hip toss, scoop slam.
Yeah.
And I just remember one day, the advanced people were doing fisherman suplexes, and they were you want to do one of these? I was like, hell yeah, I do.
Hell yeah, dude.
So I did a fisherman suplex.
How was it?
It was good. I did it well.
Yeah.
But they were just cycling everybody through, and there was a kid. He never had an actual match, but he was 5'2" and a stick, and they were he's gonna give you a fisherman suplex.
Oh, I don't think so.
And I've always been a big boy, so at the time
I was 6'5".
Yeah, I was in good shape, but I was big at the time. I was 6'5", probably 265, 275.
Yeah.
And there's no fucking way.
What the fuck were they thinking?
I don't know. I remember knowing it had to have looked like shit, but not getting hurt. Mm-hmm. I remember just thinking I'm not going to be able to post off of them, so I need to just do a diving front flip senton. Mm-hmm. This is not going to fuck me.
I'm going to help him as much as I can.
Yeah. So I remember it had to have looked terrible, but I just remember being I can't get hurt right now.
Was there a specific moment, or was it talking to your track coach that you were okay, I'm done?
Yeah, it was when I talked to my track coach, and I kind of and then I talked to my parents about it, and they basically said wrestling is going to be something that's on the table for a long time.
Yeah.
But with track, you're going to do this in high school. You can do it in college if you go to a small college. Mm-hmm. So you realistically, like, if you like track, which I loved track, I love doing track and field. They were like, you have, realistically 6 total years of this left. Mm-hmm. Or but wrestling's like always gonna be there.
Yeah.
So and my parents were even like, see if you can just do other stuff and help out with wrestling,
stay involved,
and do track,
build relationships.
Yeah. So do both, but just don't do the in-ring stuff. Mm-hmm. And thank God, Bryce Benjamin and James Russo let me do that.
So was this your commentary break, or was that?
So that was just
ring crew?
Ring crew and shit. And yes, I did ring crew forever. I did cameras. I did whatever was asked of me, but sparingly, because I went to school and wasn't super involved for a long. 2009, I didn't do shit. 2011, I kind of did, and then 2012 was when I started to get actual bookings doing commentary. Yeah, James heard my radio show at college, and I'd always been really reserved and focused on keep your mouth shut and ears and eyes open around wrestling. So I never showed personality around anybody in wrestling.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. And then James heard my radio show and was like, "You can fucking talk. You can talk." And then there was one night I hung out with him, Bryce, and Valentino, who still wrestles at Gali. And I remember Bryce telling me I had no idea you had a personality. And I've known you for 4 years. And I was like, yeah, sorry.
Where's this been?
Yeah, I was just afraid. And he was like, stop holding yourself back. Let it go, blah, blah, blah. And then I got commentary bookings. I was doing Gali shows. I did the initial attempt at relaunching Underground. And then Vanguard was my first this promotion brings me to do commentary every show.
Okay. So how intimidating was that to get in and do commentary? How many partners did you have?
Yeah, so it was tough because at Gali, I worked with, who gives a fuck? I'm not in the business anymore. I worked with the Articulator, who still does commentary there. Yeah. And I think he was he always kind of seemed like he was intimidated by me a little bit. Not intimidated by me, not he thought I was going to beat him up or something. Yeah. But he usually does solo commentary. So to him, the idea of who the fuck is this kid that's showing up and why is he doing commentary? I think that bothered him. Yeah. And I remember him
they think I don't do a good enough job?
Yeah, yeah. And I remember him kind of burying me to people. Yeah. And it was whatever. Because I knew that, because James was booking Gali at that point. And I'd known Carlos for 5 years too. So it's well, I know that they aren't gonna take any stock in him being he sucks. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's meaningless. It's not gonna do anything. So, I didn't working with him. I worked with a guy at Underground who was bad initially. And then Vanguard was awesome because I got to work with Kirby, who is the freelance ring announcer now.
Love Kirby.
And Kirby was the first commentator I ever worked with that was really good. Yeah. And I did one Underground show with K-Mel, which was good because we did our radio show together in college. We went to college together. So we had chemistry, so that was good. But other than that, it was all just horrible shit. And Kirby was Kirby's the nicest human being too. So Kirby was awesome to me, just as a person. And that was at Vanguard. And I was nervous because that was the first place I ever just reached out and got booked. And I was whoa, shit! I didn't expect them to say yeah.
You reached out to
Jordan Proud, who's the promoter. Yeah, because I knew that they'd had a lot of turnover at commentary. So I just emailed and I was like, "Hey, do you have any openings?" And he was like, "Not right now." And then Tom Green, who I'm now good friends with, which is
not
crazy.
Not that Tom
Green. He was doing commentary there, and then I think he had a change of employment or something. I think he took a different job and couldn't do their shows anymore. And then the next month, Jordan emailed me 2 days before the show and was like, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yes." So the only people I knew at Vanguard before, because the only place I'd worked were within a very niche group of people. I knew Nixon Castro, and that was it. 2 people on a show of 30 people. So I was that was the one show I was shitting bricks.
Knew personally or knew who they
knew it all. Yeah. Knew on any sort of personal level. Okay. Had actually met before, but we never hung out at that point. So Kirby was awesome to me, and he was the first person to give me pointers and direction and actually help me grow as a commentator. Yeah. And Kirby was great to work with too because he wasn't afraid to correct me. Between matches, he'd be like, "Hey, you're not giving me breaks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're stomping on me. Or he'd be like, don't lay back so much. Like in these type of situations. Or like one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was, he was like, it's not radio. It's like during the beginning of the match, he's like, I know you're play-by-play. But he's like, but at the beginning of the match, like, they know what a fucking wrist lock is, and it's not going to end the match.
Yeah.
So, like, use that time to get them over as characters, so you're not forced to do it later, or you're not, like, just skipping it entirely. So working with Kirby is, Kirby's the man, dude. And he's the best ring announcer in wrestling.
Oh,
in my opinion.
100%.
I think he's the best ring announcer.
He's amazing.
So that really helped me. That's when I found like I felt like I found my groove.
So when you started doing commentary, did you go in and did you have something you wanted to do? Did you want to be a dickhead? Did you want to be funny? Did you want to be a play-by-play guy?
I wanted to be like a straight play-by-play guy.
Yeah. Which
is weird considering like the 2 times I managed, like my managerial persona was like the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
But I really have been picky about commentary, and I did sports commentary in college for like basketball and football games. And I feel like in wrestling, a lot, especially on the indies, a lot of commentators are just like people doing imitations for other commentators. Like it's like, I'm trying to be Joey Styles, I'm trying to be Jim Ross. Whereas I felt like I could offer kind of a distinct perspective, and the people I ripped off the most were Jimmy Smith from Bellator and Kevin Harlan, the NBA commentator.
Amazing.
I was like, because no one is like, because I thought like, I'm gonna have to have like some sort of influence, but if I rip off those 2 guys, like no one's gonna know.
No one's gonna have any idea.
Yeah, so like
I can get away with that.
Yeah, so it's like there's some like MMA crossover appeal, but like probably not gonna know Jimmy Smith, and like Kevin Harlan is like an NBA commentator on TBS, so like no one probably knows him that well. Like, so those were kind of my 2 main influences. I just wanted to be a straight play-by-play guy, get the people in the ring over, like a very classic, like straightforward wrestling commentator.
Did you ever have any issues on commentary? Did you ever have anybody backstage be like, hey, I fucking heard what you said, or whatever?
No, but I've had people that I work with that have had that.
Yeah.
Where like...
Can you tell some stories? You don't have to use names if you don't want to.
Someone who's in WWE now complained about one of the commentators I worked with.
Yeah.
Just like taking away from the seriousness of their matches. And
Do I know who we're talking about?
Probably.
Okay.
Like it's... Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like you can only hurt. You know what I mean? Like you can only... Wrestling commentary is like, it's people don't notice when it's good, they only notice when it's bad.
I would tend to agree with that.
Because like when it's good, it's like referees in sports, where it's like you only notice the referees when they're fucking up. Like, and I think commentary is the same way a lot. So I always just felt like I never want to risk being disrespectful.
Yeah.
So I would always be very careful to talk to people, ask them if they have specific names for moves, ask them if they have things about their character they want me to get across. And that's something I did like the entire time I was in wrestling, just because I never wanted that to be an issue.
Yeah. I remember it was after I think JR came back and he commentated like a Triple H Undertaker WrestleMania match, and people were online were just kind of being like, oh, JR sucks now and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, not every match he commentated was the Foley Undertaker Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there were other points in between that he wasn't always at a 10. That's what made him so special.
It's so hard to like play the hits as a commentator.
Yeah.
I always feel bad when they bring back like guest commentators.
Yeah.
Especially guys like JR, where it's like you're super well known. And it's like you don't want him to have to like force in the phrase slobber knocker and by God. Like you're putting them in a tough predicament.
And it kind of sets him up to fail.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
How long do you do commentary before you get into booking?
Like 2-3 years.
How
4 years.
did you get into booking?
Slowly. I'd had creative input at like Underground for a long time.
Yeah.
Because James knew I wasn't an idiot. Like James knew.
Would he ask you, or like in conversation, would you throw something out and he was like, "That's pretty good"?
Both, but I think initially he like is just in general a nice guy. So I don't know if it was him like trying to be polite, but he would just like occasionally just be like, "Oh, hey, like, what do you think about this?" Or like, "What do you have any ideas?" Like he just like kind of asked questions like that, and I remember initially I remember pitching like a million ideas
because you've been cooking them for so
long.
Like
none of them were that good, and I get like. I remember him giving me constructive feedback though. Like instead of being like, "Nah, go away." Like he was like, "Okay, what if this doesn't work at this point in the story? Like what if this doesn't work here?" And that's like that really helped me because it helped me to understand that it drives me nuts when I see people online be like, here I fantasy booked this like 8-month angle. And it's like, okay, but if like one of those things doesn't work, you have to be ready to pivot at every single point in the story.
And there's also a chance that just no one's going to buy it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So like,
God forbid something goes wrong, but either way, it might just be bad.
yeah. And I remember that was like a big thing that James taught me was like, you have to have outs along the way. So like, you have to like pre-plan in advance for if things don't go well, how you're getting out and salvaging or making it work still.
Yeah.
So I remember him like, and I'd ask a lot of questions too because I was genuinely curious, and like him and Bryce were super helpful with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they really helped develop me creatively.
What was some stuff that you pitched there that they wound up going with and you were actually like proud of, proud of?
I'm trying to think of underground stuff I was involved with. One of the first ones that jumped to mind, just because he's my friend, was with Rob Matter when Stevie was going to do Wrestle 1 and like was like not really going to be around all the time. We needed something for Rob Matter, so I came up with the idea of the Tame the Beast Open Challenge, where he'd come out and like, and there was like a couple different ways that we'd planned on going with it. What it basically ended up being with like he would come out and like talk about how he's undefeated, even though like he had lost there before.
And for those who don't know, Rob Matter and Stevie, were they the tag team?
Yeah, they were
the Beast.
Yeah.
So Stevie is the big, muscle-bound, good-looking guy, and Rob is much smaller, not in the same shape as Stevie.
Yeah, does not look like a wrestler.
Yeah. So he was doing the Tame the Beast.
Yeah, so he was doing like this huge like talking like he was Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar at the same time. So I came up with this idea to have him do like this Tame the Beast Open Challenge and blah blah blah. And like what it ended up being was he'd like call people out and then lose, but then like still claim to be undefeated afterward.
Yeah.
Like he'd bring. I remember one time we had him bring out like a stack of like 400 pages to the ring and be like, "All right, like who's taking the Tame the Beast challenge?" And like Mojo McQueen came out. And he's like 6'5", like scary black dude in a mask, like voodoo gimmick. And Robbie would be like, "All right, before the challenge, all you have to do is fill out this paperwork." And like he'd like just create absurd obstacles. So then like Mojo like destroyed him, and then he'd be like, and then like he'd grab the mic afterward and be like, "Because he did not fill out the necessary paperwork, the beast remains untamed," and like shit like that. Like that's like silly stuff like that. Like that was like one of the that's like the main thing I remember from there that I pitched.
The beast remains untamed.
Because it popped me so hard. Like it got him over like well, and like it became a thing that they used for a while. But I just remember I was like I thought it was so funny that that's like one thing I remember for sure that sticks out.
So that's underground. Where do you wind up booking long run?
So freelance is where I end up booking long run.
Yeah.
And that comes from Nick's being at underground and like just having a lot of conversations with him around that time, because we kind of all became friends during that period of time. And I pitched ideas all the time, and like he'd hear stuff that I pitched that didn't get used there and still be like, "Oh, that's pretty good." Like and most of the time
let that go to waste.
Yeah, and most of the time it wasn't like like a frustration situation. It was more so just like underground having other plans and me being like, "Oh, it's cool, go with that." Like I like your idea. Like use your idea. It's like it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm being creatively stifled in underground." Like it wasn't that at all. So then I just started to pitch him stuff for freelance, and then as freelance grew and they started one to run monthly, Nick's responsibilities like just kept piling up with freelance, and same with Jack. So they kind of just said like, you do whatever you want, like creatively. So like they would book talent, like they handle all the financial stuff, and they just say like, "Hey, here's who we're booking. If you want to like book people, let us know, and we'll try and make it happen." But like you're kind of the guy creatively now, like go for it.
And what did that feel like to be given the keys to the kingdom?
Awesome, but terrifying. And I don't know, because like my life during like 2016 was like the full year of like me booking freelance.
Yeah.
And I was like in a haze that entire year. Like between work and wrestling, like I don't think I ever really thought about it. Like that sounds insane.
Yeah.
But in the moment I was just like, all right, it's like one of those things where like, people talk about like in crisis situations, you're just like, all right, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, all right, like there were a few moments where I'd realize what was happening and it was just utterly surreal.
Give me a few of those moments.
The two that come to mind are during the Ali Isaiah title match where
Mustafa
Ali won
Ali.
the belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. The night he won the belt,
Amazing
I remember
match too.
fucking unreal.
Yeah.
Best match I've ever seen in person. Better than the Dragon Gate.
The rumor I hear is that that's the tape that Ali.
The first match was the tape that they requested.
Yeah.
The first match with Isaiah. Yeah. That, because he was already like. So there was some disagreement within underground management about making Ali the champion.
Ooh, tell me about this. Oh, dude, spill the tea, dog. You're out of the business now.
So Nick's was like neutral, but Jack wanted someone else to be champion. And I felt really strongly that it should be Ali after the first title match with Isaiah. So I was like, this guy's like gonna be the guy. Like he's gonna be the guy.
He's so good.
And then the WWE interest started to brew.
Yeah.
And I knew that he was gonna be in the Cruiserweight Classic.
How long did you know before it happened?
Like 2 months, I think. But like he never told me. It was like I got through back channels that he was going to be in it. And then he wasn't going to be in it. Then he ended up being in it. Like, so I was thinking if Mustafa Ali, who I already think should be the guy after Isaiah, because I wanted Isaiah's reign to play out because Isaiah's fucking rules.
Oh, so good. Also so good.
But I was thinking like if Ali wins the title, he's gonna kill it in the Cruiserweight Classic, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's the freelance champion."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Fuck, we need the belt on Ali by the Cruiserweight Classic."
Yeah.
The other owner that's not Nick's was not opposed to that because he had a different idea, and I managed to talk Nick's over to my side, and that was the plan. That was the plan. That was the plan. And like 2 days before the show, the other owner like tried to convince me to change it.
Oh no!
And was like, "What if we do this, and then maybe we do it, and we wait until August, and we do a triple threat with the guy I think should be champion, and Ali and Isaiah, so we can just wait until then and see who's the most over." And I was like, "It's got to be Ali." So I like, but also because of like my anxiety, I shit 8 times, like 6 or somewhere between 6 and 8 times the day of the show Ali won the belt. Like I'm not even kidding. My stomach was a mess. I didn't sleep at all the night before.
Yeah.
I was an absolute wreck because I was like, I've really put my dick on the chopping block of Mustafa Ali needs to be the champion. So if this doesn't work, like, I'm fucked. Especially because I booked it to make Ali, like, the most heroic, over-the-top, like, if WWE did that same build with John Cena, everyone would have shit all over it. He won a fucking 6-man in the opener, takes, like, finishers, goes into that match, Team Beta interferes, and he still wins the fucking belt. Like, if that happens with John Cena, everybody hates it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, he's gonna be the fucking baby face, like, blah, blah, blah. And, like, Ali being Ali, like, takes our idea and is like, yeah, that's good. And then, like, makes it 80 times better than it is. So I remember during that match, several times on commentary, the way that the Bottom Lounge was set up, we basically would stand around the microphones we were in the Eagle's Nest at Bottom Lounge. And I remember at several points, like, backing away from the microphone and just being like, "This is my fucking house!" and being like, "Yes! Like, I'm fucking doing it!" Like, just thinking, like, what I've envisioned, like, and then them making it so much better than it had any right to be. Like, that was unreal.
How could you not be proud of that? You know?
That's,
You're going to be,
I say all the
like,
time,
65
like,
telling your kids.
Yeah. No, it sounds, like, insane when I tell people this, but, like, behind my wedding, that's the second best day of my life.
That's amazing.
It's the day Mustafa Ali won the Freelance Wrestling Championship. And that's absurd, but that's a true thing. And
you talk about that time in your life being like a haze, and you never stop to think about it and shit.
Yeah.
I remember at every show, I would get there and I would talk to you, and we'd say hello or whatever. I'd be like, "You excited?" And you're like, "No."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Are you all right?" And you're like, "I don't know, I'm nervous."
Yeah, every single show. And like that's part of why I got up. The other one I remember was when Wrestling with Words did an article about the Freelance versus CCW show, and they were like, "This is the best wrestling show I've seen all year."
Amazing.
And I remember that being like, someone thinks that what I'm doing is better than like Ring of Honor, New Japan, WWE. Like for someone that's watching like a shitload of wrestling, to say that the show I wrote is the best show he's seen all year. I remember, like, and I was driving downstate to my in-laws.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, for some reason, Christine and I had to drive separately. And I remember, like, pulling over my car and just being like, "Fuck, yes! Like, I'm living my dream and I'm doing well." But, like you said, I was also, like, a complete wreck.
A wreck.
Like, 99% of the time. And that's part of why I got out was just, like, not that it stops being fun, but I knew it was trending in that direction quickly.
Yeah.
And my day-to-day life fucking sucked. My day-to-day life was awful. Yeah. I was a wreck all the time. Indie wrestling, like, so much shit changes, and I get mad when people are really harsh on indie wrestling bookers because, like, so much stuff happens all the time that, like, there's very little that you have control of.
Well, and it is indie wrestling, so, like, there aren't contracts.
Yeah, you're not dealing with the most reliable people. Like, most of these people,
I'll be there.
Yeah, like, and there'd be stuff all the time where we'd, like, book stuff for guys 3 months in advance, and they'd be like, yeah, I'll be at all these shows, and then they'll be like, oh, like, my work schedule changed. Like, there was a guy that we were supposed to use in, like, a big capacity who is a big-name indie wrestler who, because of his work, like, we couldn't get the flights to work. And, like, it's...
Out him.
Just, no, I don't want to, because I think that I'm pretty sure that I don't know if they still do, but they were using the facade that wrestling was their real job.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of guys do.
Yeah, so, yeah, it was just one of those things where, like, like, damn it, like, that guy was going to be, like, on every show, and we couldn't make it work.
You low-key showed me who it was. I won't say anything, but I remember being like, oh, where's he at? Dude, he was so good.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there just like issues like that, stuff changing all the time, people forgetting that they'd taken another date the day of our shows.
Forgetting.
You know, and like that's the other thing
bitch,
too is
you're
like
30 years old.
or like me and Nick's having miscommunications and then like over the dumbest shit, like I remember there was one show where he was like, oh yeah, I told this guy he's booked, and I was like furious, and it was someone who ended up like being good and sticking around, so I like in hindsight like had to take that L, but I was like, what the fuck are you booking him? Like, why'd you tell him he's on the show? I was like, it was someone that was good, so
I don't have a place for him.
yeah, but at the time I was like, what? No. Yeah, so like that, I don't know, it just was really, really stressful, and I stopped enjoying it. And I remember having a conversation, and like when I use the phrase I'm going to use in this sentence, I don't mean it like in a way that's disrespectful. I've worked with several people that have this condition. I babysat kids growing up that have this condition.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be ableist.
Yeah.
Or I don't want this to upset people. But I talked to someone who works for WWE.
Yeah.
During that time period, toward the end of my run. And what they said to me was, I don't think you love wrestling. I think you're autistic for wrestling. And I remember when they said that, I was like, that's, like, not that far off.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I don't really enjoy it. I'm just like, this is how it is to be perfect. Like, this is what it's like when it's perfect. Like, I just stopped, like, I was so cynical and so, like, precise with everything. And I'm very proud of it in hindsight. Like, I think if you go back and watch that year of freelance, like, everything ties together.
Oh, dude, that year was
very,
tops.
like, synchronized. Like, I'm incredibly proud of it. But it's also one of those things where like, you can't do that forever. Like, there's a reason that even good companies drop storylines, and it's because you'll burn yourself out. And that's what I did. And I recognized it before it affected the quality of the shows. I recognized it and thought, well, shit. Like, and I remember, too, just, like, the well being dry on ideas. Like, I remember having a meeting with, like, Nix and Jack, and, like, we came up with a bunch of good ideas, but, like, all of them were theirs. And like,
you were pitching shit and you didn't even believe in it?
Well, I wasn't even like pitching stuff.
Okay.
Like, I was just like, what do you want to do with this guy? And Nick's would be like, we could do this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, all right.
And like, I could recognize that those ideas were good, but I was just like, I was falling off. And like, I could just feel it. So I got out because I knew that that's where I was headed. Like, I just knew I didn't have anything left in the tank creatively.
I think it's kind of a noble way to do it instead of just like, well, no, I like the attention. So I'm going to give these guys bullshit to work with.
I'm not like a power trip guy.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been, like, I think there are a lot of bookers in indie wrestling that love, like,
of course,
I get to be in charge.
Yeah,
like,
I'm Vince McMahon.
A ton of it. There's so much of it. But I never, like, took pleasure in that. I hated, like, having disagreements with talent.
I was going to ask about this. Did you ever have situations where you pitch something and you're like, no, this is great, and then you talk to the guys and one of them was like, I'm not doing that?
I think it happened a few times.
Yeah. Can you tell any stories? If you have to protect, that's okay.
Yeah, I'll protect this person. But there was one person who was incredibly difficult to work with. And they were involved in a feud, and we'd, like, laid out a long-term plan for it. And they were like, yeah, sounds good. And then, like, every single step of the way would, like, bitch, like, the day before the show.
Okay.
Like, oh, I don't like this. And then, like, we'd be like, okay, let's get everybody on the same page. So we try to, like, group Facebook message with like them and the other person involved in their story, and they'd be like, "Oh, I never sent any of this. I like all of it. I'm fine with it." And it's like, motherfucker, like, don't like complain about all this shit, and then like when we actually try to address it with the other person involved, you don't want to, because you just want to be like overly protected. When
do you think that is
doing.
them? What's the word I'm trying to find
I think
here?
it's just like sad. Like, I don't even like.
Do you think they don't have the spine to admit that they didn't want those things to happen when the other guy was involved?
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. When the other guy probably would have understood, but then would have been like, "Well, motherfucker, bring it up when we talk about it."
And they were able to put the pieces together so quickly. They're just like, "Well, fuck this guy."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's partially like a spine issue, and I think part of it's like a lot of people in wrestling think they're a lot smarter than they are, and I think that they don't think you'll be able to like really easily see through the bullshit of it. So I think that they thought that they would just like be like, "Hey, I'm a wrestler, and this is what I think," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, sir." Like, that's not. I'm not. I don't know. It's terrible to say, but at the nature of my real job, I work with a lot smarter and more successful people than I worked with in indie wrestling. So I'm not intimidated by wrestlers.
Yeah,
because it's like I don't know. Like, I see more successful people every single day. So I'm not. I don't know.
You actually have this feeling of like, no, I'm the boss. Like, I'm
not like I'm the boss, but more just like I'm not like fazed by it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be intimidated by a wrestler.
I was going to ask if any wrestlers ever tried to intimidate you.
No. But I do want to like single out guys that like we're really good with.
Yeah, let's do that. Tell me about
Darren Corbin.
Yeah. Well, he's fucking awesome.
Well, yeah. So. Now he's like the champ. Because they did more with him than I ever did. Whoops. Classic whoopsie. So he was actually getting really good money from another promotion that happened to run the same day as us a lot, which is why he was like kind of sporadically on shows. If he'd been available to us, he would have been on every show. I don't believe I would have handled him as well as they're handling him now.
Yeah.
Honestly, like 100%. Like, they're doing better with him than I would have. But like, I'd be like, "Hey, this is like our idea I have," and I'd communicate it to him, and he'd come up with like 8 things that made it better.
Awesome.
And it's like, all right, like, holy shit, like, off to the races. Like,
that's
there you go.
That's the kind of guy you want to work with.
I really like wrestlers in general that I feel like I'm intellectually inferior to. Like, part of why I love Johnny Gargano is like, I just feel so outsmarted when I watch him wrestle. And like, that's the same thing with Darren Corbin. Like, he's just so far ahead mentally that it's like, oh, all right, like, you do what you said. Like, that's great. He was always really good. Isaiah was always really good. And Isaiah was always super unselfish, too. Yeah. Isaiah would always be like, "You want me to drop the title of this guy? Like, you want me to do this?" Like, super team player.
Which is rare as fuck in wrestling.
Yeah. And then, like, Ethan Page was another guy, too, that would always be, like, really on the ball creatively and creative and, like, have his own ideas. And then, like, if you were just to be like, "Well, what about this?" He'd be like, "Oh, good call." Like, he could adapt to whatever was needed, or if we'd be like, "Oh, we're going to do this," he'd be like, "Awesome. Well, what if we do this?" Like, he's way too smart for wrestling.
Watching Ethan Page, it's so clear how much of that shit just happens. Because in the moment, he's like, "No, check this out." Yeah, he's so much fun to watch because you don't know what the fuck is going to happen.
No.
He can go out there and have an excellent match, like technical wrestling match. Or
he's so much better than he gets credit for.
He went out there and had a match against Grado.
Yeah.
That was so fucking funny, dude.
Yeah.
Like, he dropped it was him and Grado, the drop toe hold into the chips, right?
Yeah, the Doritos.
He gets drop toe holded into Doritos and just dies. He's dead. So, like, they come out and they're, like, taking him to the back because he hasn't moved a muscle in, like, 2 minutes. It's like, no, I think he's really dead. And he does, like, "No, I'm okay. I'm getting back in there." Hulks up, gets in the ring. Big boot, 1, 2, 3.
Yep, that was it.
It was so funny.
That's so good.
Like, Ethan Page is a guy who he could probably do anything.
Yeah, you know, whatever he wants.
Like a wrestling Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
like, give him a dramatic role. Yeah, excellent. Give him a funny role. Stuff, like, excellent.
And I think like his whole like Evolve arc was like a perfect example of that. He was like serious heel guy. He was Troll Boys guy. Like, I love utility players in wrestling. Yep. Bryce is another one.
Oh yeah,
we're like guys that can do everything are the most valuable people to have in a wrestling company.
I'm not super up to date on like the local indie wrestling and shit.
Okay.
Like I go to the freelance shows. I love freelance, and I see Bryce there as one half of the N words.
Yeah,
and it's like an excellent tag team with Acid Jazz. And then I remember like I met Bryce and had a conversation with him at Nick's house at like a Halloween party. And we wind up being like Facebook friends, and I see he's doing this other character in another company. Yeah. Jesus Bryce. Yeah. And I'm like, this is amazing. He's wearing like white contact lenses, wearing this like robe, doing like the Jesus pose and shit.
Creepy shit.
I see him fucking do like a swanton out of the rafters, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, guys like that, like, and Corbin and like Isaiah and Ethan Page and Bryce, they all kind of fall into that same mold of like guys that can do whatever you need them to do. Yeah. Like, that's
gotta be a booker's dream.
Yeah, it's the best because it's the ultimate safety net.
So you wind up getting out of wrestling.
Yeah.
And you wound down pretty quickly, right?
I did. I was like, I think it was right around the time my grandpa died, so it would have been like September, October. I was like, at the end of the year, I'm getting out. Finished up, got out, and then like I still did Dynamite Cup, which I'm still going to do every year, which is a charity show for an organization that works with foster children.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I still do that every year, and I did the Freelance Anniversary show last year as well. But
Commentary.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I got out, and I really wanted to like put the toothpaste back in the tube best I could. Yeah. So I immediately just like immersed myself and started to watch a shitload of wrestling. Because that's the other thing too, is like I stopped watching wrestling while I was booking.
Now, is that part of because you were getting too much wrestling in your actual life? Yeah. Or is it like, I always hear like Bill Burr say he does not watch stand-up because he's like, I don't want any of that to bleed into my writing, and then I accidentally take something.
It wasn't that at all. Yeah. It was the fact that like wrestling was on my mind 24 hours a day.
It needed a break.
I needed to like, and like in that same like I said, like perfectionist, like critical eye type of way.
Everything was dog shit that you would watch.
Everything was dog shit. Everything needed to be different. Everything needed to be tweaked. Yeah. Everything had to be a certain way. So I immediately was just like, I'm just gonna watch as much wrestling as a fan as possible, and like it kind of worked. Like I love wrestling again,
dude. That's the fun part. Is I think we all went through a phase where you would watch wrestling and you would fucking hate it because they're like, why is my favorite guy losing? My favorite guy should be world champion. This is disgusting. Yeah. And I think some people stop watching and then they come back later. This is what I did. They come back later and they watch it and they have fun, and if something sucks, it's just like, this sucks.
Yeah. And then just where I'm at now is like there's still some stuff, especially like hosting a podcast every week where like I have to watch current shit all the time. Like there's weeks where I'm just like, I can't fucking stand WWE. But I also watch so much shit that makes me happy now. Like New Japan stuff in general, I get so much joy out of watching. Like I don't know. It makes me smile. Like I love wrestling again, and that's nice. And I don't want to go back because I don't think there's anything left for me to do, and I don't have any hunger for it.
I was going to ask if there was any chance you'd ever get back in.
No, if like my wife left me, I probably would, to be honest. I'm not saying it would be a good decision either.
Yeah, it would be self-destructive.
Like, yeah, it'd be being like time to try and fill this void the worst way possible.
8 shits a day.
Back to constantly shitting. But yeah, I don't think I have anything left to do. I'm incredibly proud of what I accomplished, and I don't think being away from it, like, and stepping back made me realize, like, I don't miss having that level of stress in my life. Yeah. And I don't think I could go back to just doing commentary, because that was something that was brought up when I wanted to leave, was like, would you just do commentary? But I feel like it's like I can't just have one beer. You know what I mean? Like I can't have like a foot in the door and not want to get back into booking.
It's part of that autism.
It is, man. It is. In the spectrum of professional wrestling,
you're on the spectrum.
I can't have one beer. Like it's just, that's how it is. I gotta stay in the spot I am now, and I'm happy in that spot.
Good.
So.
Happiness is the key.
Yeah.
Speaking of happiness, we have a couple questions, and I think taking these from the DanDans will make them happy. Bring them happiness. This question comes from D-Ray.
Yeah.
He wants to know, have you written any new poetry or stories?
No, because that was my big thing before I did wrestling, was that I was like really into literature.
See, I didn't know if this was a joke or if you had like a prepared thing.
Yeah. I was always really into writing, and like when I got out of wrestling, I thought that maybe I'd go back to writing more as my creative outlet, and I tinkered with the idea of like writing a book about my time booking freelance.
That would be fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, I just need to like sit down and fucking do it.
Yeah. And if you do that, people are gonna want names and shit.
Yeah, I have to. And that's the other thing too is like I don't want to get like accidental heat on anybody.
Yeah.
Like I don't care enough to like want to create drama. And, like,
yeah,
I don't like drama, but like they love it. Like I really don't fucking like it. I very much care what people think about me. I don't like people to be mad at me. So like that's like the biggest thing holding me back is like I don't want to accidentally get heat on my friends, and I don't want to deal with people being mad at me.
Understandable. This next question also comes from D-Ray.
Okay.
What are some of the best reactions he's received from his weight loss? For the DanDans who don't know, you lost a colossal amount of weight.
Yeah, 146 pounds.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's bigger than my girlfriend.
Yeah. I'm pretty much done now.
Yeah.
I'm reverse dieting now until I stop losing weight, and then I'm going to bulk a little bit.
Now, what's reverse dieting?
So reverse dieting is like essentially when you lose weight for a long period of time, you're eating less calories than your body burns. So if I were to go back to like eating the amount of calories it would take to maintain weight, I'd probably gain like 6 pounds just from like your body like, holding water and stuff like that. And just to make sure that you don't like essentially fall off the wagon, you're supposed to like slowly add more food back into your plan.
Okay.
So instead of just like eating at my weight level, I've just been eating more and more every week. But because I work out so much now, like I'm becoming a guy who like complains about having to eat.
Yeah.
And it's weird being that guy when I used to like want to eat all the time.
Yeah, what's that like?
It's weird. Like, it's weird being like, oh, fuck, like, I have to eat these peanuts before I go to bed. Like, it's a weird spot to be in. But I did have a client at work. This was, like, the ultimate, like, holy shit. And this was, like, a month or so ago. It was a client that I'd worked with, her and her husband, because, like, they were going through some big life changes. So I worked with them extensively, like, 2 years ago. And she came into our office, and I was like, oh, hey, how can I help you out? And she was like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, I'm here to meet with Maxwell. And I was like, oh, I'm Maxwell. And she was like, no, like, yeah, she was like legitimately like astonished. And she was like, you look different. And I was like, yeah, I lost a lot of weight. Like, and it's so weird too, because like, I'm not like jacked, you know what I mean? So it's not like, yes, I'm big now. It's like weird because it's just like, yeah, I just stopped being like a super fat piece of shit. Like, it's weird to like, I don't know how to like appropriately be like, yes, I've lost a good amount of weight. But yeah, so yeah, that's like the coolest one where I was like, whoa, like that's different.
That had to feel amazing.
It was insane, yeah.
This next question comes from Adam DeVree, aka System. Who better than Canyon?
Nobody.
Nobody better than Canyon. Rest in peace, Boo Boo.
Yeah, R.I.P.
I really did like Canyon growing up.
I did too.
I thought it was cool. I think the flatliner is one of the coolest moves.
Yeah.
And one of the most copied moves. He probably copied it too.
Oh, for sure. Everyone does like 8 million variations of it on the indies now.
I remember in all the video games they always said that was Edge's finisher, the downward spiral, and I was like, I've never seen him do this. He did that
like for like a week on TV, and then it was in video games for like 10 years.
It's like when Jericho did the full Nelson facebuster for like 2 weeks, and it was like, well,
yeah, okay. Time to put it in the video game. He needs a grapple from behind finishing move.
This question comes from Handy Dandy Andy Jarek. Did either of you have WCW's grip and flip wrestlers? If so, which ones did you have? If not, why didn't you? They were the best.
I don't know that I did. I had some WCW figures because like extended family wouldn't know what wrestling I liked.
Mm-hmm. The grip and flip ones, they looked really cheap and they had big hands and they had silver magnets on their fists.
Ooh, I did not have these.
Yeah, you would stick them together and press their legs and one would throw the other.
Oh, that's
I didn't have those. See, I thought they were fucking lame. Okay. I wanted the ones that were like articulated so I could play with them.
Yeah. That's what I wanted too.
I was like, how do I explain these giant silver discs on his hands?
Yeah.
So no, I was a huge wrestling action figure collector when I was younger.
I had like a tub full.
Dude, we have to do another episode about like wrestling figures.
Yeah.
We have a couple more questions. Mm-hmm. This one here is from @TheBrooklynBaby on Twitter.
Oh, not the Brooklyn Baby.
What do you think of Brooklyn?
No, the
hashtag
Brooklyn
I run this city.
My friends Paul, who I podcast with, and Joe, they went to New York on vacation.
Yeah.
and they found a creepy baby in Brooklyn, like a creepy baby doll. And they took a bunch of pictures of it, and they kept sending pictures of the fucking Brooklyn baby to me, and they made a Twitter account for it. It's so creepy.
It's gross. It's fucked up.
It's disgusting.
This fake baby has 22 followers on Twitter. You responded, "Oh, son of a bitch! Bitch is spelled wrong.
You gotta spell bitch wrong."
I have a question.
I think the spelling, yeah.
What is the thing that you do on Twitter where you're like, "Is this the best thing?" ... Hard to say, comma. Like,
oh yeah, with the multiple commas.
Yeah, what is
multiple
that?
commas in a row is something that I've always just thought is really funny. And I think the phrase, like, I think asking something that's clearly wrong and then saying hard to say, like, to me that's something that's like hilarious. Like, to be like Scott Steiner's on TV right now. To be like, was Scott Steiner's like feud with Triple H the best WWE feud of all time? It's hard to say. Like, I think it's funny to just like use that phrase in a way that's like completely incorrect. I also think misspelling swear words is really funny because there's nothing funnier than like when someone's mad and makes a mistake.
Trying to make a point.
That's the funniest thing is like when someone screws up when they're angry.
It's like
that's why I love to spell swear words wrong on Twitter.
Being in an argument and you're like, dude, I don't fucking know with it.
Yeah, you're misspeaking and you're like, God damn it.
Fuck, I had a point.
Mm-hmm.
This question.
Oh, my dad asked me a question. Yeah.
This is your dad?
That's my dad.
Oh, dude, I was going to say, well, it looks like your brother asked a question. What a spry-looking young man your dad is. He says, question, as a youngster who collected wrestling figures, did you ever get one and was just totally disappointed in its look? It didn't look like the wrestler or movement.
The only one I could think of for this was like because I had a lot of figures I remember like I loved. That I was like, I wish they all moved like this.
Give me some specifics.
Maven. I remember the Maven figure was excellent. There was a Christian figure that was really good. That was like one of the last figures they made of him.
Now, is this Ruthless Aggression era?
Yeah. This is Ruthless Aggression figures.
Yeah.
I remember like right before that, when the NWO first came to WWE, they made an NWO set, and those I remember being disappointed.
The R3 tech.
Yes, I hated how those moved.
Oh, they were terrible. Yeah. Those things were bullshit.
Those are the only ones that I remember getting, but that was like when I was kind of like not super into wrestling.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a lot of those figures. Those are the only ones I got from that figure era.
Yeah.
And I remember like looking at them in the store and being like, I don't think these are going to be good, but still being like, I'm buying these.
Because they also looked a little cool.
Yeah.
I think that was a weird era, and
like they looked realistic, but they sucked to play with.
Yeah, Captain McKay will correct me. I think the R3 Tech figures. I think the whole thing was, it seemed like every figure had its own entire body scan. Yeah. Instead of everyone like sharing like one of 4 torsos and legs. Yeah. And none of them looked right.
That could be, because I remember feeling like they had like body types that were different.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Nash was like slender. You know what I mean?
Yes, Nash was slender. I remember the Scott Hall, he had like this weird bow in his back. He was like a hunchback, like Jagard Musasi or something.
But yeah, I remember those being bad. I do remember also, I had it like a second ago. There was another figure that I was like, I remember this figure being awesome, and now I can't remember what it was.
Adrenaline 1 Jeff Hardy was a major winner for me.
I think that was, I know I was going to mention Jeff Hardy.
Yep.
Oh, it's killing me, and I can't think of it. I'm really mad now.
You're going to go home and remember.
I know, and then I'm going to have to text you.
Scream into the steering wheel on your way home. But there were ones I was disappointed in, too. I remember when I was a kid.
Oh, JBL was one I really liked. When they like the first figure of him just as JBL.
Was it the blue trunks?
Yep.
I had the same one.
Trim. Yep.
I remember I was disappointed in the WCW figures when I was a kid. I don't remember if they were Hasbro or what they were, but they were giant plastic, and they were like.
Were they the ones that vibrated?
We have one of those at my work.
Okay, I had one of those. I had the Giant and I had Kevin Nash.
This mom came in to grab a bunch of Sting figures because her like 29-year-old son collects them.
Yeah.
But he doesn't live close to the store, so he was just like, "Mom, can you go please grab those for me?"
That's
Which
funny.
is so funny. And I gave her all the Sting figures, and she's like, he has mountains of this shit. He loves Sting.
That's so funny.
And then I remember she was like, what does this one do? And I go, well, it was called Smash and Slam Series 1. He probably has this. She goes, what about this one? I go, well, that red button on the side makes him vibrate. And she looked at me and was just like, why?
That's hilarious.
And I was like, honestly.
In hindsight, it's like, that's a weird thing.
Yeah, honestly, I was like, I don't know. Maybe Maybe to make noise on the ring?
Oh my god.
But her face, and she just goes, why?
Yeah. Holy shit.
Turns out Mama's going to keep that one.
Yeah. She's keeping that sting around.
Mama's trying to get stung. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god.
This was a good episode.
This was
episode
I'm glad we got
3
to do this.
of the 616 Entertainment Wrestling Podcast. I'm sure we could fill 5 more of these.
You can do another one sometime.
Oh, definitely. And then we got to get you back on the regular 616 Entertainment Podcast.
We'll do a more in-depth episode, and then we'll do an episode where we solely talk about Chris Benoit.
Oh, 100%. And then, you know what? I'm not even going to post it. I'm just going to skirt all responsibility. What are you plugging?
RBR Wrestling, my podcast, every Wednesday night. It goes live. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at RBR Wrestling, and subscribe to us on iTunes.
What's your Twitter, dog?
Maxwell RBR is my Twitter account, and that's it. And that's also my Instagram, but that's only me talking about eating salad. So,
and that's your only Twitter, correct?
Yeah. No, I don't have other Twitter accounts. Some people have alleged that me and Garbage McFart are the same person, but we're not the same person.
Yeah, for a second I thought maybe it was, but you confirmed that that's not true.
You know, yeah, some people seem to think that because I accidentally tweeted vacation photos from the Garbage account, because Garbage McFart was in Wisconsin at the same time as me one time, that it's the same Twitter account, but it's not. That's a different Twitter account.
It's just the same deal as me and you and Nick and Castro all being at those Ring of Honor shows.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, small world.
It could be any of us, for all we know.
Small world. Mm-hmm. I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
excellent.
it. This was.
We'll see you next time, DanDan.
You're looking at the real deal now. Gonna kick this sorry ass out on the street. What you got? Used to take you on the street. We'll pack your bag till your ass is dead meat. Victory's sweet. Bring it on. Here's a receipt. Bring it on. What you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Is that what you got? Bring it on. So what you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Gonna kick your sorry ass, but what you gonna do? You're looking at the real deal now. Gonna kick this sorry ass out on the street. Bring it on. What you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Is that what you got? Bring it on. So what you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Gonna kick this sorry ass, but what you gonna do? You're looking at the real deal now. Gonna kick this sorry ass out on the street. What you got? Used to think you on the street. We'll pack your bag and your ass is dead meat. Victory's sweet. Bring it on. Here's a receipt. Bring it on. What you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Is that what you got? Bring it on. So what you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Gonna kick this sorry ass, but what you gonna do? At the real deal now. Gonna kick this sorry ass out on the street. Bring it on. What you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Is that what you got? Bring it on. So what you gonna do about it? Bring it on. Gonna kick this sorry ass, but what you gonna do? You're looking at the real deal now. Gonna kick this sorry ass out on the street. What you got?